Ooh.
Yes, very
Nice.
fancy.
Yeah. Like you get beat.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Deep Take Project. I'm here with a special guest. I was really excited for this conversation. Um, we're here with Jessica Castillo. She is a educator, a yoga teacher. She's also the owner and host of Blooming Minds LV, a platform that focuses on providing resources that help cultivate emotional intelligence to kids and families through yoga and mindfulness. Now, she also studies psychology. And, based on our last conversations, I believe it was like last month or 2 months ago, we had a conversation
Yeah.
in Cafe in Las Vegas, and we had talked a lot about emotional intelligence and emotions in general and just how to navigate
Yes.
that. So today we're going to explore a little bit about how Jess has come to this place of psychology and healing and yoga, and why she decided to become an educator as well of all these different things. She truly wears a lot of hats.
Yeah.
So let's dive into it. So first off, I want to get into a little bit about your background, right?
Okay.
Many lives ago, you were a teacher and you were also a therapist. Can you remind me again what kind of therapist you were?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. It is a truly an honor and a pleasure. So thank you so much. So happy we connected. But yeah, so a little bit about my background is I was a behavior therapist. So I work with kids with autism and I worked on behaviors, on teaching cognitive skills, decreasing like maladaptive behaviors. And I worked with families and stuff. So my first 2 years, I was a therapist. And then shortly after, I became also a trainer. So they would send people and I would train them. And then after 2 years, I was promoted as a lead therapist. So I would go and I would work more with families and also observing the therapist plus the client and knowing how to kind of adjust their behaviors so then we can have more of a successful like treatment. So then I would also do treatment plans. I did a lot during that time. And then I also created a social skills group for ages 3 and 5. And that was so much fun. I love, 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 love children. So that's kind of what I did in my therapy job.
That's so cool. And what year was that? What
Yeah.
can you kind of remind us what that time frame was?
Yes. So I started when I was about to be, I believe, 24. I was 23, somewhere there.
Yeah.
And I left that job in 2019. So yeah, so it was pretty recently. I was there for 3 years. And then after that, that's when I went into teaching.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So
Yes.
that's like such a interesting combo, and I mean it's also just really
Hmm.
powerful too because you've got that background of just working with kids and therapy and psychology, and then you've got the background of actually being a teacher. So you
Yeah.
you completely have combined that, but have also added meditation and then
Yeah.
yoga. So can you talk to me and describe like some of the moments that brought you into like the field of psychology, the field of healing? Like, was it psychology
Yeah.
first? Was it like, can you just
Mhm.
describe like maybe some of those memories that inspired that for you?
Yeah, of course. So this is kind of a longer story. So what's so crazy is I actually, when I first started college, I was a psychology major. So I went in as a psychology major. After that, I changed it, I think probably one semester in, and I changed it to business. And like I went so many different routes. And during this time, I was going through a lot of like personal things. And that's kind of when a lot of things just started to click. And this was kind of around my 20, I was probably around 22, around there, 22 to 23 was when I was kind of into more like the business. And I was also working at Starbucks. And I was kind of more like, I want to have my own coffee shop and everything. But
Mhm.
then the more that I did it, the more that I discovered, I was like, you know what? I love people. I've always really loved people. I want to help. I've loved leadership. Even in high school, I was involved in so many leadership positions. So I was like, I want to do that. And I was like, and then I kind of started like really asking myself, like, what makes me the most happiest? Like when am I the most happiest? And I was like, school has always been such like I've loved going to school. I've
Yeah.
loved attending school, being a part of school, like connecting with people, connecting with my teachers was the most amazing thing. Like, so I was like, you know what? I want to be an educator. I think I would be a really great teacher. Like, I loved school. I can see myself being in school for the rest of my life. And that was like being a student and a teacher. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to try, this. So I went in, and shortly after, like, it's crazy how things work, and, life just kind of shifts things. So this was during a shift, and I actually met someone at Starbucks, and they were like, hey, like, have you ever thought about working with children with autism? And I was like, oh my God, no. I was like, I would love to. Like, that sounds like so much fun, but so hard. And she's like, anyone can do it. She's like, if you want, like, I can get you in. And I was like, okay, yeah. So I went in, and then after this, like during this time, I also really wanted to be a principal. So I was like, I know myself too, that I'm like, I love to continue to always like improve and improve. So I was like, even though I want to be a teacher, I'm like, I know I'm going to get to a point where like I want to reach higher. So I was like, I would love to be like a principal and really be able to change things, like, and really make a lot of change happen. So then after that, I went into therapy. And I loved it. I loved therapy. We did a lot of, it was all psychology. And that's why I'm like, it's so crazy, because I went into school like originally thinking I wanted to do psychology, and then I totally changed it. And then so my behavior job, we just worked a lot on just behavior. So how everything works. And I always this is my geeky side,
I
but
love it.
everything, yeah, I'm like, everything is ABC. So it's antecedent, which is kind of, I guess you can say, the trigger. And now I'm noticing that actually this falls on every single thing. Like, even us behave, like, I've known that about myself, and I've known that about like everyone, that's how we get reinforced, and we also decrease some of our behaviors because of this. But it actually, there's just so much to it. But A is antecedent, a trigger, or something that makes the behavior happen, and B is behavior, C is the consequence. So whatever happens here, it's either going to increase or decrease the behavior. So with punishment, it's going to decrease that behavior. And with reinforcement, it's going to increase. But there's also positive and negative reinforcement and positive and negative punishment. So yeah, I'm like, I couldn't even go on and on and on about this stuff, but it was just so cool to like get to just do all of that. And even this time, I was still going into school for education. And this is kind of also when I went in and I went to psychology, and there was a class that it was education of psychology or something like that, but it was for like children. And this was like a game changer, because I got to know about like the different types of intelligence. And I remember learning about that, and how like, I believe it's 8 of them, that we all have different types of intelligence. So there's some people that are really good with music. There's some people that are really good at math. There's some people that are really good with grammar and writing. There's some people that are good with interpersonal and interpersonal skills. And then I think it's like linguistic is next, and like
Yeah.
nature, and some other, I'm like, I forget all of them, but
It's so fascinating. I remember we had talked
yeah.
about all the different intelligences, and I was like almost in tears, because you're
Mm-hmm.
basically describing like what I wish I had when I was in high school and middle school. And I'm sure so many people feel that way, because you were taught to just, okay, you just answer whatever's on paper, and you
Yeah.
learn based off of really limited curriculums that don't really take like culture and like different intelligences in mind. So it's
Exactly.
fascinating. It's
Yeah.
I almost feel like if only we had that, like how much healing would actually take place.
110%. Because yeah, I remember when I learned about this, and it was an education to psychology class, and I was just like, this is really cool, because it explains me too, that I felt that way, that I was like, oh my God, because we took the test and I actually tied with intra and interpersonal skills. So that's my intelligence. And it made sense to me, because I was like, I've always really loved school, and I've loved like doing things, but I've never been a genius at it. I've never been super like great at it. And sometimes it was discouraging, because I was like, I can't do that. Like, I can't do that. It takes me
Yeah.
longer.
Yep.
But then that, it helped me, and I was like, oh my God, this makes sense. I'm actually really good at that. I'm really good at this.
Yes.
But then it also was kind of like crazy to me, that I was like, I don't understand how we're teaching this, but we're not applying it to our schools. Like, it
Mm,
makes no sense to me why we're still putting so much emphasis on math, science, and reading or whatever, or like sports, like kids are really good at all these other things. And that's so beautiful and so amazing. And we should be nurturing that mind of those children. Like,
right.
because if they're really good at science or they're really good at arts or music, then we should continue to like help like nourish their mind and continue with their type of intelligence. And if they decide they don't like to do it, cool, whatever, let's get you on something else. But that's going to definitely help kids. And that's when it kind of clicked to me too, that I was like, no wonder people are dropping out of school, like especially here in Vegas. Like, I went to a school that was like kind of in the bad side of town, and I saw all these people like just stop going to school because they thought they were dumb, because teachers were telling them and because the school was also failing them, and it just made no sense. So that's kind of when I started the idea that I was like, you know what, I would really want to do this. Like, if I build a school, like I want to put this in my curriculum and make sure that I motivate my children and the kids to like continue to just reach their education.
Mhm.
So that kind of stayed with me always. And then that's when I kind of left therapy and I went into teaching. And that was like a whole other journey. That was, oh man, oh man.
Yeah, that's like
So
a whole different system in itself. Right.
yeah, I remember like the doctor that I used to work for, he would always be like, Jess, why do you want to be a principal? Why do you want to be in like there? And I'll be like, because Dr. Chris, like I want to help. I want to make change happen. And he'll be like, I don't know, that's just like, he just always talked bad about it. So when I left, I definitely like saw it. And because I'm not a licensed teacher. I went into subbing, but because CCSD
Hmm.
is just so low on teachers, they actually hire substitute for these long-term positions and these vacancies because they don't have a teacher for that class. So they put you in there. So I kind of knew this before because I actually also opened and started a autism classroom. It was grades 3 to 5. So I did that for like also 2 months, and that was a whole other thing. So yeah, I'm like, I've been through a lot. But that class was the one that I think kind of helped me more in the journey of like finding emotional intelligence. So the reason why was because I went in this classroom and I was only going to go subbing for like a month or something, because I was also trying to start like business and all that stuff. And so I went in and they were like, yeah, you're like the fifth teacher that they've had. And I was like, oh my God, these poor kids. Like, it was a first grade teacher, like first grade classroom. And they're like, and I'm like, that's so sad. Like, they're losing their whole education, like, because we can't find a teacher. Like, and that's so like not okay. So I was like, man, oh man, I'm gonna probably end up staying. And I kind of knew. I was like,
I need to, yeah.
yeah, I was like, no, I'm gonna get out. Like, I'm just gonna go in and focus on business. And no, and I went in and I was like, no, they need me. Like, and I went in the first day and I literally made 6 kids cry, which like I'm so nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So nice.
So nice. Yeah. And I love kids, but they were like, it was so sad. Like, it was so sad. Like like the first day, like all the kids were running around everywhere in the classroom. They were hitting each other. They were stealing from each other. It was a mess. And no one helped me. Like, no one came in to check on me. So luckily I have a background in, behavior and reinforcement. So I was like, okay, cool. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to change this around. So I did. I set up like a reward system. I set up a management, and the whole year, I just worked on behavior. Like, I got to teach like a little bit of like the core like stuff, but besides that, no, it was just all behavior, because I had already stepped into a classroom that was like, no one nourished, no one taught those kids how to do things. So it was just so much. Like, I remember one time at one point, I had to hold 2 kids down because one of the kids was trying to stab himself and this other kid was trying to run away from the classroom. Yeah, it was insane, like what these kids were doing. Yeah. I remember even one time, this broke my heart. Like, um, I would put on yoga also for them, and I would have them meditate.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm just like,
Spiritual.
you guys need it.
Yeah. There's some meditation, some grounding in this motherfucker.
Yeah, yeah, it was so funny. And the cool thing, honestly, was because I was a sub or I wasn't a licensed teacher, I didn't really get evaluations. Honestly, they left me alone for like, no one checked on me for like, until report cards were due. And this was kind of, I'm like, this is, yeah, it was just really bad brand. Like, and so I was just left alone. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take advantage then.
Yeah,
I was like,
you can create your own thing, your own curriculum, and like
was,
how to improve like the system almost.
exactly. Yeah. So I kind of just took it as an opportunity, a learning opportunity, also to like benefit those kids. Cause I was like, okay, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be teaching you. Like, you just gave me this book, but like, I don't even know. Like, I'm still not a licensed teacher. I'm new, and you're just, so I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to do my own thing. And I kind of liked it. Cause I was like, you know what? I'm just going to, do everything. I don't have to do what they're doing. So I'm going to take this as a blessing and just like go with it. So I did. I kind of did a lot of things. I changed my whole classroom. It was really, really fun. But yeah, it was really like intense. Oh, and then one time it was so sad. So one time, this is how like badly there was just a lot of kids that were just emotionally disturbed in my classroom. So I think probably more than half of my students, because of what happened. And it was a bad area. It was also by like Rancho and Lake Mead. So it was kind of like by Texas Station and stuff.
Okay.
So then after that, there was one time that all my kids were like doing yoga, and I'm literally in the teacher's desk, just kind of observing, making sure that like everyone's like, okay. And I see one of my students, and this one of my students, he just always, I always tried to help him because he just had so much emotion. You can tell there was a lot going on at home. And I remember his brother, I think, came in, and I was always kind of having issues with him. But one of the time I literally saw it, like right in front of me, his brother was like literally standing up. They were right next to a student's like desk. And his brother was like standing up right next to him. And my student was literally on his knees digging in through like my other student's desk. And his brother was like literally just like observing and watching out for him. And I just remember just like looking at them and being like, this is first grade. Like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Okay,
And I was
so
like,
just to give
mhm.
the listeners like background, you said Texas Station in Las Vegas, right? That's kind of where the school was.
Yeah.
So to everyone that's listening, I don't want to say it's a bad area, but there are like a lot of low income communities and families there. So,
Yeah.
just kind of want to give everyone some background about that area. But
Yeah.
I mean, these are first graders. That's intense, and I imagine like it wasn't a very stable situation for them because you said they went through like 5 different teachers.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember. It was just, yeah.
Oh,
And I don't think they were going to stop until, because I did kind of put my foot down. Even with the principal, I had a good relationship with the principal because I'm very like upfront about things. And especially I learned so much on like my therapy job and other jobs that I'm like, I'm not going to talk to anyone besides like the person that's on top, and that's it. Like, and I just hate gossip. And also schools are very like, and it was just so sad. It was just, I think this is just what like really like kind of just really like hit me, that I was like, everyone in this school is so unhappy. Like,
yeah.
I would have lunch in my classroom alone. Like, I wouldn't talk to anyone really. I would just talk to them to just, about like the kids or stuff like that. But besides that, I would go to my classroom just because I just didn't want to be around it, because I was like, I also know that I am influenced as well, and I don't want to become negative. I don't want to blame the kids. And I could see why they do it, like why the teachers are not happy, why they don't love their job anymore. I can totally see it. It's the whole system. But I'm like, I have to protect myself. So my mind and my like passion is still here. So it was just really sad, like all around, like my kids, the teachers, like it was just a really sad situation. Like,
Yeah.
So
I mean, honestly, great one on you though for still sticking with it. I mean, you were kind of experiencing it all, but there was a part of you that wanted to stay and wanted to lean in. I
yeah.
mean, based on our previous conversation, I know that there was a point in time where you were like, well, I can't really do this anymore though. I can't be around this environment. And then so you transition and you left. So talk
Yeah.
to us about that transition.
Yeah. So I was like financially really struggling with that because it
Mhm.
was a lot of just like problems that were happening. So that's kind of when I decided to leave. And that was kind of last year. So even last year, my therapy job was really, really hard. And the way that it all ended was very heartbreaking. And I even this week I like kind of like dealt with it and I'm still trying to heal from that
Yeah.
and stuff. So 2019 was really hard. And then last year was like also hard because I was still going through the transition. But that's kind of when I also decided to go to school. And I was like, you know what, psychology. I love psychology. I think it's going to be so great to learn about kids, learn about the mind, learn how to help. And I'm like, and also if I want to go back to teaching, I have, my bachelor's to be able to do that. So I was like, I'm going to do something that I love. So I went into that. And then that's when also I kind of was looking at yoga. So I've been practicing yoga since I was like 20 years old.
Mhm.
So it's been a really long time and I've always really loved it. It's always helped me connect with my body and it was just so kind of just also like a healing kind of like practice for me.
Mhm.
And so then last year, yeah, I just kind of was like, you know what, I want to get certified. And I saw like this kid thing and I was like, I want to teach kids yoga.
You're like,
That
that's
looks
it.
like so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I've been teaching it since my therapy job. So even with my kids with autism, I would actually teach them. It was the cutest thing ever to like see them like
Oh,
do the yoga poses. And yeah, it was just so cute. So then I decided to do that. And then that's when I also decided to leave my job. I was like, you know what? I deserve better. Like, I have a lot of skills, I have a lot of drive, and I need to get out of these situations to keep myself motivated because if I don't, it's just going to keep getting worse. So
yeah, of
I was like, I'm
course.
going to get out and I'm gonna really like work hard on like my business. And then I was like, and I'm gonna go see a therapist. So like I started seeing a therapist last year during also my training with yoga.
Mhm.
So that was really cool because I'm a person that I take things very seriously. And I remember when I started the course to teach yoga, it was talking about like you need to take care of yourself. You can't preach or you can't teach something when you're not actually practicing those as well and like your practice as well. Like, and so if you want to heal people, you need to heal yourself. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. This is an online course. So it will definitely be better if it was in person, but this is a circumstance. So, okay, I'm going to go see a therapist and I'm going to try to work on my stuff so then I can show up for people. So therapy was great.
Okay.
Therapy was amazing. That's like a whole other thing.
Yeah, so therapy
Yeah.
is a whole nother thing, but I want to kind of acknowledge something that you
Yeah.
just brought up, and that's in order for us to show up for other people, we must like work on ourselves and heal and try to just like lean into our uncomfortable shit because most of us
Yeah.
have a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Here.
yeah.
I'll admit. I know my shit.
Yeah, I've got a lot of it too.
Yeah.
So I actually, one question popped up when you were
Yeah.
talking about working with kids and like the psychology of that. What is something that you learned by working with those kids, like about like the human psyche, about healing, about trauma, even um,
Mhm.
in adult people, adult individuals? Like, was there any sort of big revelation or like connection that you made, between those experiences?
Like just in the school or like in all around?
Yeah, I mean, I would say working with those kids, right? I
Mhm.
mean, because you were experiencing some really intense like behavior, and that really is sort of because of the inconsistency, and also, a lot of these kids are coming from low income families as well.
Mhm.
So there's some gaps there.
Mm.
So
Yes.
I'm curious, like, was there anything like big that you learned or took away from that experience that um, kind of brought you more clarity about just like how we operate in our adult lives, because like we have our traumas and then we get older and like we have to navigate through these emotions that we may not have had the tools to even like go through or work through or navigate. So yeah, is there anything that like you had taken away or learned or anything like that?
Yeah, I think that we're a cycle sometimes, I think that a lot of these kids, like, and I might even cry, but like, they're just in a cycle, it just makes me sad. I think that that's what would make me so sad, and that's why my student Levi, like, I still remember, like, it was just so sad to know that, like, he might exactly be the same as their parents, and I hate even saying it because I'm like, and I, even when I was a teacher, I would always tell them that I believe in them, and I would just always try to just be so positive to them because I'm like, I don't know when the next time you're going to hear this, like, and it's so sad for me, like, that's so sad too because I'm like, it's all a cycle. Like, the kids are a cycle. Like, they're kids, they grow up and they're put in these schools that also, these schools are full of a lot of these educators that are just also not happy, so they're not happy, then you're putting these kids that need really a lot of attention, more attention than kids that are in more wealthier kind of families and have more resources and more help. So then you're putting these kids in it, and it's all a cycle because those teachers aren't going to most likely motivate them. They're going to probably make them feel like, what's wrong with you, and get them in trouble and all of this stuff. So it's going to go back into that cycle. And then this school is also a cycle that it's like, you're not happy because the higher end, like higher up, it's all a ripple effect. So that's the biggest thing that I took from that was
Yep.
like, where everyone's running in a cycle here and we need to stop. And yeah, I'm like, but I didn't have the resource, I didn't know how to, so
Mhm.
that's why I got out.
Yeah, and I feel like now you're kind of collecting more information and data so that you can provide that healing for, these kids and these families, because that's really where it begins. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been thinking and meditating on this meditating on healing for so long, and it really just it stems from um, parents, it stems from our kids,
Hmm.
and how we navigate these uncomfortable emotions that we may feel and that we may not even know how to navigate through. So I want to transition into like therapy. You said that you started therapy. You're in this season of your life where you're wanting to heal yourself and lean into those parts of yourself so then you can show up for other people. So
Yeah.
how was your
So
first
sad.
therapy session? What have you found so far?
Uh,
You're like, oh,
yeah, like my first one.
you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah, no, therapy, that was a game changer. I think that that's when, I've always prayed for like wisdom and just wanting to really help the world. And, like, if that's my mission, to like be able to have these resources to be able to do that. So like, it was really cool the way that like life is kind of unfolding right now, because during therapy, that's kind of when I really like, I dealt with a lot of my stuff, that a lot of my core things is like, I feel unworthy. And it's because of like my upbringing, because of like my dad's relationship. And in the beginning of therapy was really hard. You should have seen me. Like, I was broke. Like, and I remember my therapist did tell me that. She's like, I'm going to break you. She's like, but then I'm going to build you back up like stronger. And I was like, okay, cool. Like,
Oh my
let's do
God,
it. So
that's
yeah.
beautiful. Oh, no.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, Christina was amazing. I'm just so happy, so blessed, like so grateful, like to have had her, because yeah, she did. She totally broke me. She
Yeah,
was,
in the best
yeah,
way possible. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, she did. But yeah, she was just so compassionate, so kind about it. But she would also tell me my shit. She'd be like, you do this and this and this and this. And then she'd be like, why? And and it was really cool because she guided me, like, yes, she helped me out, but a lot of it was they kind of guide you to you figure it out. So a lot of the time, I'm thinking and I'm asking these questions also myself, and it's helping me get clarity. And in the beginning, it was so hard for me to admit that I felt unworthy. Like, when there were situations that happen and I'll be like, oh my God, it's because I'm worthless, like because I really feel that. And it was so hard. And I remember this one is a little bad that I did, but I was starting to notice that during my sessions, I would cry. I would cry so much. So, like, a lot of times she's like talking to me and I'm like not being able to listen. And I'm like, I know what you're speaking is like so good right now, but I can't listen. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to record my sessions. And yeah, and yeah, you're not supposed to do this, and no one, yeah, like you're,
I forgot. I forgot that you're not supposed to do that, but I feel like it's super helpful to do that, to
it
keep
is.
track.
Oh my God, that was what changed everything. Like, was the recordings, like, because she would say so many things and I couldn't hear her. So one time I was like, you know what, I'm gonna record it. And when I listened back to the tape was when I was able to really see that I was like, I am in so much pain. And I was like, it just helped me have more compassion to myself, that I was like, man, Jess, like that's a lot. That's tough stuff. Like, and I need to be nice to myself, like I'm in so much pain. And then I was able to listen to her, and what she was saying was really God. She just said so many things that I was like, and it changed so many things. I stopped being friends with a lot of people. Like, I started just changing a lot of things, like, because I really like understood that I was like, yeah, I feel worthless. Like, that is my core belief. So like I need to change that. And I remember she even said that we kind of like went into like what worth means. And she was like, yeah, she was like, I'm not going to tell you that, like, because I was like, I remember one time I was like, Christina, is this ever going to go away? Like, I feel like I'm always like dealing with this. Like, I'm always feeling unworthy. Like, and like I go in and I do everything you have taught me, but like this still comes up. Is it going to go away? Am I one day, like, because we kind of went into like what worth means. So like, do you feel unworthy your whole time? Like, do you feel worthy all the time in the like for your whole life?
Yeah.
And that's like a question for you. Like, do you always feel worthy?
In my life,
Mm-hmm.
definitely not. Definitely
Right?
not. Yeah,
Your
no,
moments
it's,
are
I
up and
mean,
down.
it's very up and down. It depends on my triggers. It depends on the situation. I'd say where I feel the most unworthy is in the workspace, like in a professional setting, right? Especially if I'm
Mm-hmm.
like the only or one of the few like women of color or a minority, right? That's probably when I feel the most unworthy because I'm like, well, no one else around here looks like me. So
Yeah.
am I supposed to be here? like and I'm referring to like, my new job, right? And it's like
Yeah.
I'm literally sitting there like anxious as hell and I'm like, I shouldn't be here. Like, why am I here? And
Yeah.
then I'm like, Maya, where is this coming from? Like where is this trauma coming from? And I think it's because like when I was a kid, I grew up, I was born in Portland, Oregon. I was like one of the only Asian kids in an all white classroom.
Yeah.
And I think as a kid, you don't truly understand like what that means or how it's affecting you, but it
Mhm.
makes you feel isolated and it makes you feel like you don't really necessarily belong. So
Yeah.
here I am, like at my desk, like feeling into these like and oh my gosh, it's like it's been a big like hurdle for me. Like I'm trying so like every single day to like make progress and lean into that unworthiness and that emotion, and
Yeah.
really just process it. Like I feel like that's like the best way that I can go about it is like to feel it and then process, and then hopefully it gets better over time, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes like other days it comes back full force and I'm like, holy shit, this is like a trauma that I've worked on and like faced so many times, but it's coming back even stronger.
Yeah.
And like the healing journey is just so up and down and sideways. So yeah, I mean, I definitely do
Yes.
not feel worthy all the time. I think it's
Yeah.
it's funny that you're bringing it up because like that's been a pretty big hurdle for me lately. is
Yeah.
like really believing that I'm worthy enough to be in these spaces, in these environments, working with these people, you
Yeah.
know. So
Definitely.
yeah, absolutely. That one's a hard one. Yeah,
It
it's a
is.
hard one for
No,
sure.
it totally is. Cause yeah, I felt the same way too. And I kind of answered the same, like also that I was like, there's moments that I feel really good, and I'm like, and there's moments that I don't like, and it just
Mhm.
kind of comes and goes. And yeah, and it is. It's just like something. And I remember after that, she was kind of like, so I was like, is it gonna go away? And she was like, I don't know. She was like, I can't tell you a yes or a no. She was like, but one thing I can tell you is like the more you like help yourself, the better it will feel, like the more you'll show up, like, and the more that you're going to want to show up to for yourself. She's like, so she's like, this is just a start. She's like, keep working on it. She's like, and it will get better. She's like, but I'm not going to tell you it's going to go away or not, because she's like, I really don't know. And that was kind of really interesting. I love that she was just so, Christina never ever was like, you feel this or you do this. She'll be like, does this resonate with you? Like, if it does or if it doesn't, like, let me know. If not, then cool. And I would be like, yes to this, yeah, no to that. She'd be like, okay, cool. And she would just let me kind of do my own guiding. Like, she would guide me, but I would do the work. And it didn't feel like she was the one that was like putting all on this stuff. She never put a stigma on me. There was just nothing that she ever assumed or anything like that. And it was really great. But yeah, I'm like, worthiness is like my thing that like it all pops up. And honestly, like, since I've worked on it, since I stopped therapy the end of last year,
Mhm.
it's gone so much better. Like, I feel like I feel so much worthy, and the tools that she's helped me, like taught me, sorry, my
Yeah.
words, have really like helped so much. And there are moments that I don't feel worthy, but they kind of come a little bit more rare.
Mhm.
And also the triggers, I'm like, it also depends. But right now I'm being triggered like so much, but
Yeah.
and it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, it's
No, I
cool,
know,
let's do
I
it.
know,
Yeah.
I know. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, talking about this stuff it's a lot. A lot of emotions come up, and
um
like we're talking about unworthiness, right? And I'm like thinking now, I'm like thinking about all the moments in time where, like, I've experienced things, and like consciously, I'm thinking like, oh, yep, because this happened to me, because this, I'm talking like, okay, like in a romantic relationship, oh, because this person no longer wants to be with me, it means I'm unworthy. Or
yeah.
because my mom stopped talking to me, it means I'm unworthy. Or it's like all these, like, I'm the only person of color, so it means that I'm unworthy and I'm not supposed to be here. It's
Yeah.
like it's all these things, and it all stems from from something. And like
Yeah.
we're bringing this up, and I'm like thinking about all these different memories now of just times where consciously, like, a big part of me was trying to like validate those like untrue beliefs, really, or those untrue like stories about myself.
Yeah.
So I,
Yes.
like, to go back to like the root of that emotion and that feeling for you, like, you said that it stems heavily from like your relationship with your dad. So
Mhm.
can you like talk to me a little bit about what that means for you and what your relationship with your dad is?
Yeah, so I grew up, my dad kind of in and out. My parents got a divorce probably when I was like around 10, but even before that, he was never really like around.
Mhm.
We used to live in California and we moved out here when I was 6 years old. That's when they got back together. So as soon as we got here, they were only together for like a year and a half and then they separated again. And so my dad after that was always in and out of my life. So he would come back for just a little bit, then when he would leave. And a lot of the time was when he would get a new girlfriend, he would just like kind of like disappear and stuff. And then I would just always be so hurt by it. I would always want my dad. Like, I just really wanted to have my dad in a relationship. So whenever he would come back, it was just such like a joy for me. And I was so happy. But then he would leave. And then after that, it was just kind of a back and forth kind of thing. So, and I remember even in high school, this is going to sound really weird, but that's psychology. That's just the way
Yeah,
our
that's
mind
what
works.
it
I'm
is.
like, it's,
Yeah.
yeah. But I remember when in high school he came back, and I remember texting him, and I would like, and I didn't really date in high school. Like I only dated like one guy. But I remember texting him and being like so happy, so giggly, like if I'm talking to someone new. And that's how it felt like. I remember like texting and being so like, oh my God, yes, yes, totally get to see you, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm literally acting like if he was my boyfriend. Like, I'm acting like I'm so excited. Like, right now, I don't give a fuck about any of these guys. I'm just excited that I get to see my dad. I get to spend time with him. And he's now like making that time for me. Like, and I just remember like in my head, like, I never told anyone, but being like, this is like so kind of twisted. Like, it's kind of weird, like, that I'm like
Having this
viewing.
like strong, intense reaction to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. So then after that, yeah, it's just my, and then after that, it was just kind of like not good too. So in high school, when I graduated, I went through a lot during this time. But wasn't able to go to college right after because like my mom she didn't have a citizenship. My dad didn't. So I lost like my scholarships, my financial aid. I wasn't able to go to school like right after high school. And I remember being so upset at my dad because he didn't want to help me. And I was like, Dad, this is the only thing that I want. Like, I don't date. I don't really do anything. Like, all I'm focused is school. Like, please help me out with this. And he didn't. And I got really upset. So I was like, you know what? And this is kind of mean of me, but I'm like, it's just, I understand myself 100%. But I was like, if you can financially, like, if you can be there emotionally and you can be there financially, then like, I don't want a relationship with you. Like,
Right.
this is so unhealthy. Like, so then we stopped talking, and that's kind of when I started to really try to like heal somewhat. And I went into like bad relationships. That's when I like went into another like relationship. And I remember like after that, I was like, I'm literally dating my dad right now. Like, this is like a guy version of my dad. And yeah, I had so much trauma, like, and I had so much, like, my dad just would use me. So he always made me feel so unworthy. Like, he would just do so many things that were like not nice, and like promise me, like, I remember even just being like, when my parents were going through divorce, they put me in this room with my dad, and like I think there was a therapist or like someone observing our relationship because they were fighting in the custody because my dad wanted custody, which makes no sense. But he wanted custody of me.
Yeah.
So they put me in this room, and I remember like he was just like, I'm gonna change, this is gonna be different, I'm gonna be there for you. And I just remember crying in that room because I was like, that's not true. I was like, you're just saying this because someone's observing. And I just remember just being so sad. Like, and he did that kind of stuff all the time. So now being an adult, it makes so much sense to me that I'm like, I kind of, my dad used me like my whole life. Like, and I was always so excited, always so like eager to give him another chance. Like, so it makes sense why I have this relationship with guys, and I went to like a 3-year, like super emotionally abusive relationship. I kind of think that my ex-boyfriend was a narcissist.
Yeah, right. We
Yeah.
talked about this. Crazy
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. It's real. Yeah, this shit happens.
And it's, yeah,
Yeah.
and when you're in it, you can't really see outside of it, you know?
No. Oh my God, no. I remember everyone was like, Jess, he's bad. Like, and I'd be like, no, he's misunderstood. And he did a lot of like really fucked up things that I was like, no. Now I'm like, what the hell? But I'm like, it's cool, Jess. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we talked a lot about this last time, but
Yes.
I mean, because I mean, I did it too,
Yeah.
and we can't help it because we're literally just projecting our traumas and unhealed parts onto other people. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you said it yourself, like you felt like your dad had used you, and
Yeah.
he wasn't very like emotionally present, and he made promises that he couldn't really keep,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's like it's just crazy how in relationships that stuff follows you.
It
Like
does.
catches you, and like
Oh my
sometimes you don't
God.
catch it in time, or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people don't catch it until like 10 years later in their
Yeah.
marriages or in their relationships, and it's like it is I
Yeah.
mean, I'm glad that we have the awareness now, you
Yeah.
know,
I totally agree.
but sometimes we don't always hit the mark. Sometimes we get caught up in our traumas and our unhealed parts. Like for me, like I have like major abandonment issues. I mean, I don't want to call it an issue, but like it's a very big part of my
Yeah.
healing. Like every time I am in a new friendship or a new relationship, I
Yeah.
already shut it down before it even begins to blossom or evolve because I'm so damn scared that this person is going to leave me in the way that I don't want to say my mom left me, but growing up, my mom was like, you know, she was a hardworking Filipino woman,
Yeah.
had to put food on the table for her kids, and she wasn't around a whole lot, you know, so she was working all the time, and I grew up, you know, with my dad, and but when you're a kid and you're not seeing your mom, and your mom is like super tired from work, and she's not entirely emotionally present in the way that you'd like, it
Hmm.
those things really impact you. And
Yeah.
then so I have that, right? And then I start getting into relationships like in high school, right? And
Mhm.
then my high school boyfriend breaks up with me, and I'm like, all right, so my story and my belief is that people are always just going to leave,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm not worthy of someone staying. Like I'm getting triggered right now because that's a big one for me, and that's like
Yeah.
probably one of the things that I've needed to get past in order to like evolve and heal and actually have like healthy relationships. I'm still working on it. It's gotten better.
Hmm.
Like you know, you're talking about like your belief of unworthiness. That's mine. I really don't believe, or a part of me believes that people are not going to stay. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's so crazy. So I'm
Yeah.
curious, you know,
Mhm.
with that big belief, and now I understand why it's so ingrained in you. Can you kind of describe to me, like in your personal life, where that shows up? Like maybe a moment in time where um, that trauma came up and you started projecting onto like what was actually happening in front of you, and maybe how you moved through it and navigated through it.
Yeah, so I definitely do think that it was that 3-year relationship that I completely like, yeah, that was like my dad. I did not have any worth. I had super low self-esteem. I was also, I'm pretty sure I was dealing with like really like maybe like even depression at that moment because I was just
Mhm.
so upset about school and stuff. Um, so yeah, I just honestly I let this guy just do whatever. Like I lost myself completely. Like I was no longer Jazz. Like I was still happy, you know, like my personality was still pretty much there, but I lost all drive. I was doing so bad at school. I was not really like at any job for that long. It was just so bad. Like, and especially with the guy that I was with, like he would just do a lot of things that were not okay. Like he would even sometimes, like even it was such a bad relationship. Like that even sometimes when we would like break up or I would break up with him, he would like go and like kill, you know, like threaten to kill himself, or he would actually go and like hurt himself. And it was just, so I was just always in this like cycle with him that it was
Mhm.
just, yeah, that I was like, no, it's okay. Like it's totally fine, you know? And he just reminded me of my dad. And that's when I also saw, you know, that I kind of, so my dad is like this tall, really, he has like a really cool, like demeanor, just like really chill, easygoing.
Mhm.
And I've noticed that I've always been attracted to guys that are more like relaxed, more like easygoing, more like the cool guy, the
Cool
bad
guy,
guy. That's
mysterious, yeah.
yes. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, tell me it all what's going in that brain. Yeah.
Oh my no, please stay away from me because I will fall in love with you and it's not going to be good. So please back
Yeah.
the fuck up. That's how I
Exactly.
feel.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's exactly it. So yeah, so during that relationship was when I I did. I just lost myself. I lost everything. Like I even moved to Hawaii. Hawaii was actually really good in a way. Like, cause I was like, I sold my car. I sold like a lot of my clothes, my furniture. And I was like, you know what, let's go to Hawaii. So like we did. And Hawaii was really great, but it was so hard because we didn't really have a job until like probably 2 months after. And then after that, it was really hard to be away like from my family and from my friends and just be at a like an island by myself. Like, so I was just really upset, but also there was a lot of things that were happening. And also with Julian, things were like kind of going better, like, but there was just things that were just not happening. Like, but just like the money was just really tight. And then there was this other thing that happened with this other man. Like, so yeah. But then we ended up coming back and that was like really good. But and that's kind of when things started to change. That I think that Hawaii really like also kind of like punched me in the, everything like stopped me down. And that's when I was like, you know what? It was a really good reality check that I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I need to go back to school. I need to do this, this, and this. Like, I need to get my life going. Like, I'm 21. Like, this has to stop. So I went back and that's when I kind of started to change things. But even with Julian, things started to get worse. He was just like, I caught him talking to another girl and they were like kind of talking about sex and all that stuff. And yeah, so then we ended up breaking up, but I definitely, yeah, I'm like, it's just my relationship with guys was so bad and was so like with my, just like my dad. Like, I just really
Yeah.
wanted someone just like him. So it definitely took me a moment.
Yeah, to kind of like reframe and step outside and to kind of see yourself clearly, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like when you're in it, you're just so far into it and things get hazy. I mean, my God, everything that you're describing is how my, relationship was when I was like, it was like right after high school, so like 19,
Oh,
20, in that
yeah.
age range,
Yeah,
right?
same.
And like, I was getting into drugs. I was like not eating a whole lot. I didn't know how to navigate my emotions. Like, I completely fell off and I like stopped talking to my family.
Mm,
I was always with,
yeah,
my boyfriend at the time, and it was not a healthy situation.
no.
And I think I kind of had the same realization at some point when I started to see like my physical health decline
Yeah.
from this relationship. And I was like, this needs to stop, and I need to break away and really like lean into my shit because there's a lot there that we need to unpack. Um,
Yeah.
so, I mean, thank God that we're here now.
Right? Yeah, I agree. Because that, yeah, like just like you said, you don't see clearly. Like, you can't. Like, you can't. Like, even
Yeah.
if it's right in front of you. I'm like, I remember just everyone was like, Jess, this. And like, in the beginning of our relationship, someone broke in my house and they like took a whole bunch of stuff away. And I remember just being so sad. And all my friends were like, it was him. And I was like, no, it wasn't. And yeah, it's just, and there was just so many things that it was so clear, but you cannot fucking see
Yeah,
because of
you're,
all of the stuff.
yeah, because your trauma's in the way, but you also
Yeah.
have like these emotions and that
Yeah.
get in the way and start complicating things as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so
It took
with that
me.
said, with all the triggers,
Mhm.
with all the emotions, I want to talk about just
Mhm.
exactly how you've applied your practices into your personal life because I
Yeah.
mean it's been a journey so far, but I think it's amazing what you're doing right now. I mean, you're literally
Yeah.
healing people in the Vegas community and people from all over who's
Mhm.
tuning into your yoga practices and your sessions and just people that you're educating. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
So my first question for you is, what do you find most healing to you in your personal life? Could be
Most
anything. Anything that comes to mind.
I think it's what my therapist taught me is like the most healing is, and I use it every single time. Like, so this is kind of where a lot of like it shifted was I remember she taught me for like kind of a 4-step kind of thing. So whenever I'm feeling like a really intense emotion or like anything that's just like a lot, unpleasant kind of emotion, I first like check in, like, okay, how am I feeling? And like I ask myself, how am I feeling? And I say everything, like I'm feeling worthless, or I'm feeling ugly, I'm feeling not enough because of this, and I'm embarrassed because of this. And I just name it. Like, and it's sometimes hard to like say it, that I'm like, or I'll just like, even sometimes I actually record myself too. I'll like put it on record and I'll say it out loud, or I'll write it, but I'll be like, okay, I name everything, that I'm like, this happened, this happened. And talking about it actually makes you kind of like take out more of what you have inside. So
Mm-hmm.
name, saying what I feel, naming it, and then I go back and then I tell myself that I'm not alone, that I'm like, hey, okay, Jess, like, this, so many people struggle with unworthiness, so many people feel ugly, so many people feel embarrassed, like this is kind of regular stuff, a lot of people feel this way, like, so it's okay, you're not alone. And then the next one is I ask myself what I need, and that's when I'm like, okay, I need to give myself compassion. And self-compassion has been the most beautiful thing that's ever, game changer, total game changer. Like, so I just give myself compassion and be like, and I talk to myself, like, and I'll be like, it's okay. Like, you're going to feel these emotions because of this, like unworthiness. You were taught this when you were a little girl, you were taught this when this happened, but that's not really how I feel about you. Like, I think you're amazing and I think that you're great. And I just start naming things that I do that I think I'm pretty special about. And it's made the biggest difference in my life. Like, I think that that's, yeah, every single time, like that's my most healing thing ever now. It's just like recognizing all that emotion, all that unworthiness, what I still need to fix, owning up to it, also being responsible to feeling those things, also letting myself know that I'm not alone, and just giving myself compassion, and then giving myself what I need at that moment. And it's been so amazing, because I feel like I've been getting so much better at like feeling more confident, feeling more just accepting of myself. I actually really love myself. I'm pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
like a fucking badass.
Yeah. I know, this week I'm like, I am a bad bitch.
You're a bad bitch and you're healing communities.
Yeah.
That's a fucking superpower, Jess.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you.
You don't need me to tell you that. You already know.
No. Thank you so much. Yeah, no, it's been good, because yeah, I'm like, it's changed everything. Like, and I feel like now I'm like, now learning about emotional intelligence and even more, I'm like, it all makes so much sense, because I'm just fully diving in deep with everything. And I check in every single time I have any kind of emotion. And that's including like emotions with other people too, that I'm like, oh, that person just made me upset. Like, why am I feeling upset? Like, and I'll go in and I'll be like, it's because I'm lacking this. And I'm just like, yeah, it's me, like, because a lot of the time I'm like, I notice for me, like, I'm like, I really don't give a fuck about a lot of stuff. Like, I really don't care about people's, I don't know, like, people, everyone just has their own things. And that is one thing that I like, like, my goal in life is to be like not judgmental, like completely. Like, and maybe I don't know if I will ever get there 100%, but I want to be the most like accepting and authentic about it, like, and that's so important to me. So like, if I do feel an emotion towards someone, I want to check in why, because a lot of the times, sometimes I really don't care, because I accept, I'm just like, yeah, you have a rough day, cool. But I'm like, why did that make me upset? There's a reason why I'm upset, because if I wasn't upset and you probably lashed out at me, I would be like, cool, okay, sorry. And then I'll go on my day, and I'd probably like be like, oh man, that person was having a tough time, blah, blah, blah. But if I'm getting upset, why am I getting upset? And it's been a game changer. Like I said, I'm like, I check in every single time. I face my shit every day.
Yeah, every day.
Yeah, every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple times a week, a day. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing about healing. It's like it's so damn uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
And it can be very taxing if you're constantly facing your stuff and like almost
Hmm.
like just hyper aware of like all these micro moments with people that you're speaking to, people from work, your friends, your family, and you just have to
Yeah.
like you just check in. You're like, okay, all right, Maya, where is that coming from? And then you
Hmm.
start thinking about memories from like either your childhood or like just adolescent years growing up, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just is very, it can be very taxing sometimes.
Yeah.
um I'm still trying to figure out like how to even navigate that. I think for me,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like an obsession, and sometimes I don't know if it's healthy or not. Like, I'm like, okay,
Oh,
Maya, you are obsessed with healing, but like, where do you draw the line here? Because like you're
mm,
hyper aware of like every little moment and when you're being triggered and tracing it, but
yeah.
where do you draw the line?
Mm-hmm.
Like like is there such thing as obsessing over it and maybe being too aware? Like, I'm like, what are your thoughts on that? Because I've been trying to figure that out myself, right? I
Mm-hmm.
feel like when you start getting into this journey and like just self-healing and all that, it gets kind of messy.
Yeah.
So like, have you found anything like with that? I mean, like, what are your
Mhm.
thoughts on that? It's like it's complicated.
It is complicated. Yeah, it's so complicated. Honestly, like for me, like what I personally think is I think it's a never-ending journey. I think that you're always like I think that it's good to obsess over it, but also I think that it can be maybe a little bit too much when we're too where it's maybe like we're just always trying. Because I'm kind of the person also, maybe you can relate to this, that I want to like fix things now. Like I'm
Yes.
just like I need to fix this, so I'm gonna get on it. Like, and I'm gonna do. And I drive all deep, and I'm just like,
Go,
okay,
into
yeah,
the fire we go. I don't know what I'm gonna find, but it's gonna be a fucking
yeah.
shit show.
It's like we're gonna heal this now. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my god.
I'm so like, yeah, I'm just like, I want it now. I kind of suffer and I'm trying to get better at being perfect. Like that's kind of my thing that was before. I'm a people pleaser. But because I just, and that's also childhood. My mom it was a little hard, but
Hey,
it's okay.
yeah,
I
no,
love her.
I have
Yeah.
people pleasing tendencies too. I'm trying to grow out of that one for sure and heal it.
Yeah, that one's still a hard one for me too. But yeah, no, I definitely think that, yeah, like, just allowing yourself to just be compassionate. Honestly, like I said, I'm like, compassion is just like, it really does like shift things. Like, and maybe not for every single person, but I do think that it is so beneficial. Just giving yourself compassion that you still got a lot of work to do, and that's okay. And for the rest of your life, you're going to. And I think now learning about emotional intelligence and kind of like diving in deep with that, I'm just like, yeah, this is actually we're forever supposed to heal. Like, and I think that that's what I'm learning. That's why right now when you were saying about that, I was like, no, because every single day you have to ask yourself why you're feeling those emotions. That's a whole part of emotional intelligence, is like labeling that emotion, understanding where that root is coming from, what those triggers are, and then being able to like also regulate that emotion. So yeah, I think we're supposed to face ourselves every single day in order to get better, in order to like, yeah, just get better with our relationships, with ourselves, with our just everything. So yeah.
So
Yeah.
speaking of relationships,
Yeah.
my next question for you is, since you started your journey in psychology and healing
Mhm.
and yoga and meditation and all that, um, and therapy,
Yeah.
how have your relationships, your personal relationships, work relationships, professional relationships, how have they improved? Um, what have you discovered in that journey?
Yeah, I think I can better show up. Like, I think that there's times that, of course, like it's still hard for me because I'm dealing with a lot of stuff right now. Like, but no, I feel like I can show up so much better for people, like with my friends. Like, I'm just because I deal with my shit every single day, like when I show up for you, like I'm able to show up for you, like, and I'm able to be present. And I'm also able to, I've been noticing that I'm catching myself even more, like on like how I think, on how I like speak, and kind of even more kind of acting before thinking before I act. There we go. So
Okay.
I'm getting so much better just being more aware. And then also just drawing those boundaries where like really boundaries were a really big thing. And it's still something that I'm working on. But because I'm creating those boundaries with people, I can better show up for you because I don't feel like it's overwhelming for me. Because a lot of the time, sometimes I would just break boundaries that I wouldn't go to sleep because I'm trying to be there for you, or because my friends want to like go to another bar and I'm like trying to go home. Like, and
Right.
then I go because I'm people pleasing, yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's gone so much better that I'm like, no. And to be honest, I have cut a lot of people, like also like therapy. There was one friend that I love her and she's amazing. I think she's a beautiful person, but I had to stop being her friend because there was something that my therapist said, and this is so true. And this one, I was like, this one's trippy, but it's true. But she was like, a lot of the time, the people that you surround yourself with, the people that you attract, or the people that are your friend, are people that you guys have similar core beliefs. So because I feel unworthiness, my other friend feels unworthiness, so I'm like working and healing on myself. So I'm able to more better. And I'm not saying I'm perfect because I'm not, and I still do it, but I'm able to kind of regulate myself. I'm able to notice the way I talk, the way that I do things, so I won't like hurt her feelings. But my friend she was just displacing it and just putting it on me. And, a lot of the time she would kind of say things about me that I would be like, ouch, why did that hurt? And like, then my therapist kind of helped me being like, oh, okay, unworthiness again. And I'm like, oh shit. So when she said that, and she was like, yeah, your friends sometimes are, and that's why you have to put boundaries. Because a lot of the time when I was with Christina, I'd be like, Christina, like, I know it's me too, like I take responsibility. Like I love my friends, but like it's not just happening with one friend, it's happening with another friend. And that's me, like I want to know, can you help me be able to notice what I'm doing so I can heal myself, so I can show up better for that relationship, because I love that person and I actually really hate that I'm feeling this way towards that person. So she taught me a lot. And with this friend, I had to let her go. I
Yeah.
like decided, I was like, because of that. And there was something else earlier you said, and that's 100% true, was because she was validating that unworthiness feeling of myself. All the time that I was surrounding myself with her, I was constantly being like, it was constantly dabbing on me, so
Yeah.
like she was reinforcing that about me. So that's why I was like, I have to let this go because I need to heal this and I need to help feeling worthy, to show up. And because there was another friend also that I was kind of struggling with, but that friend, she was also healing herself. And that's a lot of the time, and we both have a lot of the same kind of core beliefs as well. But because we're both healing, we're so much better aware of like what's going on and how we're showing up and what we say. Because a lot of the times, sometimes, and some people are really good at noticing when you kind of say things that are going to be hurtful to someone else, and some people aren't. So with this friend, she wasn't aware, and that's why I had to stop being her friend. And my other friend was much better because she's also healing herself, and we're able to just kind of be more mindful of that. So it's just, yeah, just being mindful of like what you're saying, what's going on. And yeah, it has completely changed. And with the guys, I'm still single. Yeah, and I'm happy. Yeah, I love it. I actually really love being single. But yeah, no, it's been good. I've been really proud of myself because I notice when I'm attracted to certain guys, and like now I'll kind of just not even like glance. I will not even kind of associate myself sometimes. And also, if I do notice that I do, like there was this one guy recently that I had to block him because I was also attracted to him and he was bad boy. Like, and I was like, oh my God. And I was, because sometimes it's hard, because I'm like I told you, I'm like, I'm working on this. I've been working on it. Why am I still like, no?
Oh, yes.
So
Why is this happening again?
yeah, I'm just like, ah, but it's part of it. And that now that I'm finding out about mindfulness and about even more about psychology, it makes sense to me now, because healing, I think that we think that it's like this, or sometimes we think that it's like 10%, 20%, 100%, and then eventually there, but it's actually not, like it's 1%, 5% sometimes back. And then but it's little steps, and it's little like little just actions, you know, that will get you there. It's not going to go away. Like, it's just not. So like, what was I explaining? I forgot what I was explaining right now.
No, it makes sense. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
basically, we're talking about how just the healing journey is different over time. Like it just changes
Yes.
all the time. It's very up and down. It's not linear at all.
No.
And we get triggered, and then sometimes like old triggers come up, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is. I thought we already went through this. Or like,
Yes.
why am I attracted to this person again? The same
Yes.
person. Why am I attracted to my dad? You know?
Yes, the bad boy. There we go. Yeah, because I've been making so much progress, like so much progress. Like I don't even like associate myself, but I was like recently. And I remember this guy, we only went on 2 dates, and the third one he forgot about it. So then after that, I was like, no, I'm not doing this. Like that's not cool. So I'm done talking to you. And we stopped talking. But then he would keep coming around and he'd be like, hey, like, let's go out a date again. Like, I missed you. Like, you're so great, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, yeah, you didn't. Like, but and I never went out with him like ever again, but I was still engaging. And that's still like I said, I'm like, I could be like, oh yeah, I didn't, you know, like, but I'm like, no, I own my shit. Like
Right.
I'm still engaging and I'm still liking it. I will totally admit that too. I kind of, part of me like feeds on this.
It's
So
up.
like,
Yep.
why,
Yep.
you know? And I was like, it's just because this is what I know. I've known this kind of behavior for years, for like 21, 23 years, like, you know, so it's like, of course, this is still going to feel good. It's not going to be easy for me to let it go. And that's kind of what even my therapist taught me, you know, it's like, it's okay, like to engage in bad habits, be involved in unhealthy relationships, but it's over time. That's why boundaries are so important. But also boundaries are meant for you to discover it. And that means that you're going to have to mess up in order to learn that boundary, you know? And I think that sometimes we're so scared to like kind of do it, you know? And I think that, yeah, it's just a never ending process. But I was like, oh my God, I'm still, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to do what Christina taught me, you know, like, it's okay, Jess. Like, you're going to let it go. You're going to let it go. And if it takes you 2 years from now, then it's cool. Like, whatever. Like,
You're on the
whatever.
journey. You're aware of it. You're
Yeah,
aware of what's happening inside of you. As I feel like as long
exactly.
as you can catch it, I think it's okay. It's all
I think
okay. I
so
mean,
too.
like you said, I mean, you've been taught to have relationships like that since the dawn of time. I mean, since you were very young, so it's like ingrained into our systems.
Yeah.
And then like you start feeding into the situation. You're like, oh, why does this feel so good? Why does this feel familiar and
Mm-hmm.
normal? And then you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
this is something else. This is something from my past, but it's also okay.
Yeah.
And that honestly, that's super powerful because you're right.
Thank
Like we're
you.
gonna mess up. It's gonna be messy, and it's all
It
okay.
is. Yeah. Because, and sometimes I think like kind of recognizing that about yourself and giving yourself credit, like, because even when you think about it, like, let's say from now, like 4 years from now, how was that behavior? How was that habit? Like, how was that unhealed, like, wound? Probably a lot more intense than now. So, like, give yourself that credit and give yourself, like, be proud of that, like, amount of growth, because maybe, yeah, it's not where you want it to be, but it's a lot better. And that's how it starts. And that's how we heal. Like, it's not just going to be overnight. I think we're all, and including myself, sometimes a lot myself, like, want this to be over, you know, that I'm like, I
Now,
want, yeah, now, cool, I'll deal with it. Okay. But now no more. And no, it's just, that's not how it goes. And yeah, so with that guy, I actually ended up blocking him after, because I was like, okay, I'm going to feel this out. I'm going to like notice. And he was kind of doing kind of weird things. And there was one thing that he kind of did. And I was like, yeah, yes, block. And I was like, because I was also like, why don't you want to block him, Jess? Why do you care so much about like what he thinks? Like, and I'm like, because I still like him. And because I'm like, I'm telling you, I'm like, yeah. And then after that, yeah, that's when I kind of was like, you know what? I'm done. Like, I felt that feeling. He did, because he was kind of talking to me when he was like, had a girlfriend. And I was like, yeah, don't talk to me. You're still like, you have a girlfriend. That's not okay. And he's like, oh, yeah, we're going to break up. Like, and I was like, and then he was messaging me and I told him, I was like, honestly, this is not okay. Like, this is not okay. Like, don't message me. You have a girlfriend. I no longer want to like be engaging with you. And so he was like, okay, cool. I'll like message you when we're broken up. So like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like,
Whoa.
yeah. And I was like, but I didn't block him. And I was like, oh my God, Jess. Like, and I was like, it's cool, Jess. It's okay. I was like, it's okay. You don't want to block him right now. You don't feel like it. It's okay. Like, we will keep looking at his stories, because I think that you need to feel this emotion to be able to like go on and heal, you know? So then after that, I kind of kept watching his stories, because I knew that like seeing both of them was going to make me do it, you know? So then, yeah, one of the time he kind of posted, they went on a trip like shortly a few days later. And I was like, that's so fucked up, block.
You're like, no, we're not doing this. Like,
Yeah, I was like, that is not okay. Like, first I knew that that was not okay before. Like, but you know, I'm healing. So, but I was like, I'm happy. I'm really proud of myself for like making myself like kind of have those emotions and go through it and be accepting of myself. And it helped me, you know, like I was able to do it. And now I don't give a fuck like what he thinks or like anything. Like it kind of healed that part, I guess, of that
right.
moment. So
Like
yeah.
process that emotion. I mean, I think that's a
Yes.
lot of what all of this is, because like it's gonna be messy and it's gonna be really complicated, and we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna fall into really terrible old habits. But I think if we process the emotions right then and there and like see it for what it is, I think we can make room for new things, and like
I think
just
so.
give ourselves the space to like witness it and be okay. And I think that's a part of it. I think so many of us just
Yeah.
don't really know how to witness and don't know how to create that space for those really uncomfortable emotions, you know?
Yes.
So,
Yeah. It's so true. Yeah. It's just, yeah, like saying the truth, but it hurts. You know, I just think that, yeah, we're just really scared, you know, because those are really unpleasant emotions. And back to emotional intelligence, that like we were not taught to navigate through these emotions. So they're going to feel scary. We're going to feel like we don't want to deal with them. Like we don't want to face them. And that's why like, yeah, what I'm doing now, I'm just so excited and so happy to like be really like learning about it, because it's helping me. But I'm like, now I can better like help other people too, and like, and have that compassion and teach people about compassion, because I want people to kind of like feel what I feel, you know, that I'm like, I I know I'm not cocky. I'm not like a person that's like, yeah, this. No, like, but I know my worth now. Like now it's really presented in almost all areas of my life. Like, and there is a lot of time where I am triggered, but now I go back and I heal that part about me, and now I show up better. And those emotions, that unworthiness actually comes less often now. And even if it does come, it sometimes comes from a short amount of time that I'm like, I feel it, I go, I heal it, I, give just so much love. And then I'm like, just give myself compassion through the motion, and it's gone so much better. Like now with guys, like I'm still single, but like I catch it so quick. Even the last guy that I was like dating, like I didn't even date him for a month, because I was like, as soon as he like did something, I was like, I remember I told you that I was like the cup. I was like,
yes.
my
Yeah.
cup is empty. My cup is empty.
Okay. Please explain that story, because it's such a
Yes.
badass story and
Yeah.
love hearing it.
I know. It's such, yeah, I'm just super, especially with guys, I'm super straight up. I don't like mess around. Even when I don't like someone, I'm very straightforward about it, that I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, but I'm not into you. I'm not going to lead you on. I want you to know. Like, so with this guy, yeah, I was dating him for like almost a month. And he was just, there was one time we broke up once. I even forgot why we broke up. I'm like, it was just, yeah, I even knew that it wasn't going to last long. No offense. But like, I just kind of knew like he was a lot younger than me, but he was really sweet, really, really sweet guy. But I was like, okay, cool. So then, yeah, we started dating. And there was just one thing that, He did. We broke up. And then after that, 2 days later, he calls me and he's like, Jess, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, cool. We can like totally like make it work. Cause it wasn't a big deal. Oh, I think, yeah, it was just like, we were just talking about relationships. Cause yeah, I was like telling him, I was like, okay, I was like, I am looking now for like my partner. I want a best friend. Like, I'm not really looking to hook around, mess around. Like, I've already done that. Like, I want someone that's going to be good for me, that's going to be really good, that we can make a team. And I'm like, and this is what I want. Like, I was like, I am looking for something serious. I'm not looking to get married, but I want something serious. And he was like, yeah, I'm not really looking for that. And I was like, cool. Okay, that's fine. I was like, I'm happy that we had this discussion. You are more than welcome. And you have every single right to feel those emotions and not want to do that. So, but that's not what I want. So like, this just isn't going to work out. So we left it. A few days later, it calls me, blah, 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 I'm sorry. Okay, cool, it's fun. Okay, so we get back together kind of, and then literally the next day, it was like a few days before Valentine's Day, and he was like, yeah, so for Valentine's Day, he's like, I'm actually going to be going with my girl, with like my best friend, which is a girl, and he's like, yeah, we made plans because she's like single, and she was talking about how hard it is to be single. He's like, so yeah, I can't really hang out with you, but can we have dinner? We're already going to have dinner the day before, so like, we can just celebrate then. And I was like,
You're like, interesting.
yeah, I was just like, okay, I'm about to feel my feelings in my car. And then I'm going to like deal with those emotions. And then I'm going to figure out what the fuck I'm going to do with this. Cause like, that was not cool. Yeah. I'm like, no, like, so I get in my car after crying, feeling all my emotions. I'm like, I'm feeling unworthy. I'm feeling like I'm being now compared, you know, and now I have to like, and that's the thing. I was like, I don't like this, but like, now you're trying to make me kind of fight with this girl, you know, like not physically, but in my head, now you're putting me in a situation where I have to be like, kind of comparing myself, and that's not cool. Like, don't do that to me because I'm like, I should not have to compare myself to anyone. We are all individuals and beautiful, and I know, like, so I was like, okay, cool. So then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna end it. And as soon as like I kind of like said that, he calls me and he's like, Jess, I am so sorry, that was so fucked up, blah blah blah, like I am so sorry. And I was like, yeah, that was not cool, like you hurt me, like that unworthiness is something that I really struggle with, and you just like reinforced that, and you just made me feel these ways, and that was not okay. Like, I'm glad that you figured it out literally 10 minutes after. I was like, because I was going to break up with you, because like I have worked so hard on myself that now what you're doing to me is so unattractive. Like, this is such a turn off for me, like, and that is not okay. So I'm like, it's cool, we can talk about it more, but like, and then I told him about the girl that I was like, now you're making me feel this way with her and blah, blah, blah. Like, and so that was, we kind of got better. The next day, like I saw him. And as soon as I saw him, it was just, I was so turned off. Like, I was just super turned off that I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, and I was like, yeah, this is not. And I remember the whole night being like, no, nope. And so we were driving home after, and he was like, so is everything okay? And I was like, no, it's not. I was like, okay, I'm going to explain this to you. So I literally kind of got 2 cups out and I showed him because he's really young. So
Yeah, gotta explain it. You have to have examples.
yeah. I'm like, I was a teacher. I'm like, okay, maybe like not verbal. We already talked about this. So like maybe, you know, like a visual will like help. Yeah. So I was like, this is 2 cups. In a relationship, you have your cup, I have my cup. You pour each other's cup. You're constantly pouring each other's cup. You have to make sure that your cups are full at all times, you know, because that person needs to feel loved, needs to feel valued. And then that, as soon as that person is feeling that stuff, they can pour into yours. And that's how it works. I'm like, right now, my cup was literally right here, right? I was like, then we broke up because you said that you weren't ready. So, you know, my cup went down here. I was like, and then the next day that we get back together, you tell me that you are going with your friends. So that brought me all the way here. So I'm right here. I am running very low. I was like, and it is your responsibility to fill that cup up. I was like, and because my cup is very low, I'm feeling very turned off right now. So yeah, he was kind of like,
So good, guys.
yeah.
That story. I told you, I was like, I'm gonna use that next time because it's so brilliant. Like,
it's so true.
Yeah. I mean, why do we have to explain? Just like take 2 cups and just showcase what you're talking about because it makes
Yeah,
sense. Like,
it does.
you're right. We need to pour each other's cups.
Yes.
That's how, relationships work, healthy relationships at least.
Exactly. Yeah, because when your cup is empty, like that's when you become resentful. That's when you start to get angry. Start to get aggravated. You start to become unhappy. And that's even just in general in life. That's why I'm like everything. Now that I'm learning, I'm like everything goes with everything. Because I'm like
Mm.
every single relationship is even a transaction. Like I think when I remember when my therapist first told me this, it was hard for me to like actually admit this and to like be like, oh shit, this is true, because I'm like such a giving person that it's hard for me to like want that in return. But it actually is so true. That's why we become like kind of upset sometimes at friends, because maybe we're giving so much of it, into that relationship and we're getting very little back. So that's causing us to also have all these emotions. And that's why boundaries, making sure that you fill your own cup, is so important. So you can show up and you can be like, okay, cool, this relationship is not very good. Like I can either stay here and maybe put a boundary and like engage a little bit less. Because there are relationships that I feel like we have to still engage. Our parents, our family, like I know I'm not very close with some of my family members, and I'm not, so like, but I'm also gonna decide not to hang out with them that much, because I have to protect myself. But because I know that, and because I know sometimes I'm more giving, I'm gonna put that boundary to make sure that I fill my own cup, and that's with anybody. And it's true, it's so true with relationships, with the friendships. Every single thing is a transaction. Even a person walking down the street. I remember in my class, in my anthropology class, one of my professors, my super love you, Danny.
I love it. Yeah, Danny is
Danny.
her beautiful, handsome, very intelligent professor. And yeah,
Yeah.
I really hope
Yeah,
things go
right.
really well.
Yeah, thank you. I know, I'm like, but it's not gonna. It didn't happen. I'll tell you about it later. We can even talk about this in person.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I remember one time he like asked us. He was like, "Our relationship's like a transaction." And I was like, hand up. I was like, yes, yes, they are. And I used the wrong thing, because he made me just so nervous in that class that I was like, yeah, I know this. But I was like, oh shit, that was the wrong thing. Cause I was like, when you open a door for someone, which honestly it is true, but it was the wrong like example.
Right.
You like, it's not that you expect a thank you, but when someone doesn't say thank you, what happens? Like,
Well, you feel a little like, come on, man. Like,
yeah,
say thank you. That's kind of like a respectful thing.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
normal humans feel that way because I feel like we've been conditioned that way. Because, like, that's just what we're used to.
Mhm.
We're used to someone being like, thank you so much. So you're like, if someone doesn't do it, you're like, damn, ouch.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So because you did something, you gave in that transaction, you didn't get something in return. And also because we've been conditioned to like think that that's maybe like the exchange. So so we do it in every single thing. Everything is a transaction, but that was a wrong thing to say at that class, because then after that, like these other two girls were like, no, I give and I don't expect anything. And I'm like, bullshit. That's why you're gonna be in therapy in a few years. Yeah.
Everyone's gonna say that. Everyone's gonna say that they give, and like,
Yeah.
that's
Mm-hmm.
not the reality. Sometimes we get so caught up in our own bullshit. I mean, shit, that
Mm-hmm.
was something that I was working on for a while. I mean, like, I give in my own way, but I still have a hard time giving because I'm afraid that people that I give to are going to like fuck with me. That's literally like the belief there, or the
Mm-hmm.
fear.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I get
yeah.
I get it.
But yeah, and sometimes we also do think, I think it's also like our family conditions us, like our environment. Like that's why we're an individualistic society in America, and a lot of the time this girl that answered that question, she was from a collectivistic society, which is more like about family, more about groups, more about like helping each other. And here in America, we're more about ourselves, so
Right.
I think that also that kind of plays like a really big role in that like she was brought up thinking that she needs to give, and that's the way that it gives.
Right.
But it's still part of a transaction. I didn't say this in class because I was like, I'm not going to be an asshole and have to
Drag
step
it
up
on.
one up.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was just like, cool, me callo, I'm going to stay quiet, and I get it. I understand where you come from. So with her, I'm just like, yeah, it just makes sense. But you are getting something in return. You're either getting reinforced by your family, which they're probably loving you and probably telling you thank you so much for everything. And that's enough. We don't need something like a tangible item to feel reinforced. It can just be love. It can just be someone feeling, someone feeling grateful for something that you did. There's just all of that stuff that is a pay for us, So with her, I'm like, you're either getting that or you're probably maybe not getting it. And that's eventually going to make you kind of resentful, or it's going to make you sad. And, it's just important to know this stuff. The more that you know, the more that you understand why you react to certain things, why maybe something isn't feeling good, why something's feeling good, because you totally see it. I'm like, now I see it with all my friendships. And now I really do cultivate friendships like that I'm really working so hard to making sure that I'm surrounding myself by people that are giving me also, because I know I'm going to give and I'm going to give a lot, but I need that in return now. And putting that boundary has just, it's so great. So
yeah, the boundaries. Yeah. And I mean, you had brought up, sometimes we have to engage with people in our lives that need boundaries, like family, for example. Like that was
mm-hmm.
such a great point, because you're right. Like we still
Yeah.
need to engage with our family members. I mean, depending on what the situation is, really, if you're close to them or if you have somewhat of a decent relationship. But
Yeah.
setting those boundaries, is super important, and it makes you feel like you don't really have to burn bridges or cut people off. Sometimes you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because things can get really severely unhealthy. But I think you made such a great point that it's not this linear thing where you just cut off people as
Yeah.
soon as it's like, yeah, I'm triggered by you, we're done. Like, we're not going to do this sort of
Yeah.
thing. Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
some people in life where we really have to, okay, you can still be my life, but we're going to have to set boundaries.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that is, yeah, so amazing, super important that you pointed that out.
Yeah.
I think I have two more questions here for you. I actually just one. Our final question.
Yes.
We're gonna take it a full circle.
Let's do it.
So, what would you say to your past self, your present self, and then your future self?
My past self, my little girl self, that I love her and that I think she's amazing, that she's gonna do a lot, and that I'm really proud, and that I'm here. That's the most important person that can be here, because it is true. Now that I am my own best friend, and it's total game changer. So I just want her to know that I'm here all the way, and with every single emotion, every single experience that she's about to experience. I'm here. Yeah. And then my future, my present self,
Present, present Jess. Yeah.
that I'm so proud of, Jess, that I'm so, so proud. Yeah, I'm so proud. I'm so proud. And I believe in her, and I'm proud. And no matter what, I'm here also, but that she's doing a lot, and that, I think I still deserve more credit than I give myself sometimes. I still catch myself all the time and be like, wow, no, you really need to look at that a little differently. So, and then I'm working on it. I'm working on being more present and being more kind to myself. And then my future self, oh man,
Excited.
wow, I'm like, that's exciting.
Who knows? That's gonna be in 2 years, a year, 5 years.
Yeah. Um, that you are a bad bitch, number one. um,
Yes.
and that, yeah, that you got this, that, that I think life, I know for a fact, because done it now. Everything that I've asked for, I've been presented with it. I feel like I didn't get presented the way that maybe I wanted it to, but that's why the reason why I wasn't presented that way was because it wasn't going to bring me the person that I am today. So that I'm just really excited to get to know her, because I think she's going to be really amazing. Like, I already love who I am right now. And it actually, like, I was actually driving on my way, and I was thinking about that too, that I was like, oh my God, I love who I am right now, but like, I'm really fucking excited to be like the person that I in the future. Like, and then I'm just proud that she's changing things, and that, yeah, like, and I'm just excited to just meet her. I'm really excited.
I love it.
Yeah.
Making me cry. I'm
Yeah.
so happy that I met you, Jess. Like, seriously,
Same.
like I told you this last time, but I really am grateful for our friendship and just you being open to this.
Yeah.
You are so beautiful. Like,
Thank
seriously, like,
you.
and you're doing so many amazing things, and I'm just so damn excited for you, like, all
Thank
the
you.
time, because you
Yeah.
really work really hard to step in and show up for yourself and lean in, and like, you've come a long way. I mean,
Yeah.
given your core beliefs and your traumas, like, stuff that you've gone through and stuff that you have faced, it's not fucking easy at all. Super
Yeah.
uncomfortable. So thank you so much for just being here, and yeah, thank you for being a part of the Deep Take project.
Thank you so much for having me. And I feel the same way. Like, as soon as I met you, that like conversation when we had at Sunrise, I was just like, why is she moving?
I know. Such
Yeah, I'm just like,
Oh
I
my
love you. Oh my God. Because it's yeah, I feel like for you, you're hard to find. Like, I've met a lot of people.
I
I
know,
know a
I
lot of
like,
people. So
yes, it's hard to
yeah, it's
find
hard.
people who like really like get jazzed up about this stuff. Most
Yeah.
people don't really want to talk about it. Sometimes it's
No.
really uncomfortable, but like with you, we can talk about this stuff like forever, and it's just,
Yeah.
it's great. I'm so grateful that I found someone that I can do
Yeah.
that with. I mean, so
Me
far I found maybe
too.
like one other person, but yeah,
Yeah,
you're like,
no, I feel the same way. Like, like you said, like, it's just so nice to talk to you about it, because we both like are like so into it, and it feels also so accepting and non-judgmental. It just feels so safe. I feel like we both like make it such a safe space for both of us to just kind of like open up, because I feel that way. And I'm just like, it's so nice to just like, I don't think I'm well, like, I have shared this with a lot of people, but like not that fast, that I was like, let's talk about everything. Yeah, I told you a lot of stuff that first day that I was like, oh man, and usually I don't have these conversations and that deep and like feel so connected also, like, like, so it was just so great. And I adore you. I love you. I love what you're doing. I think this is amazing. Like, Maya, I think that
thank
I'm
you.
just so proud of you, so happy you're doing this, because we do need this. Like, we need more awareness on this kind of stuff, and I feel like you're doing that. And not only are you healing with yourself, but like, you're really helping other people heal, because that's kind of how it starts. Like, it's a seed, like, sometimes maybe we're not meant to heal right now, and I think that a lot of people sometimes are not meant to heal at the moment, but like, sometimes even just knowing about it plants a seed in your head for like later on for it to blossom and bloom. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you so much for doing this, because I think this is amazing. So amazing.
Yay! I'm so glad we
Yeah,
did this. Well,
thank
I'll
you.
definitely I'll either call you or message you, and then we can
Okay.
kind of catch up, because
Yes, please.
yeah, let's just keep, updating each other. And I know I don't live in Vegas, but of course, like, I'm gonna be back sometime, maybe in the summertime, and then
Okay.
we can reconnect again.
Yes, and then I go to Cali, and that'll be a bigger excuse to go up in the south.
Can you
So,
please? Yes.
yeah,
Can you
I
please?
would love to.
Be so
Oh my God, that would be so much fun,
That would be
sir. I
fun.
get so
Oh my
excited.
god. We can go to the beach. Oh my god. Yes, we can meditate at the beach. We can cry.
Yeah, yes, let's do it. And we could do some yoga, and then we could just like be just,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm so down. So down. Yeah, that sounds great. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Maya.
Well, we'll plan it out. I'll message you. Let me just stop this recording.